Jorgelson, and my final project is over climate change and environmental policies in the government. We live here on Earth, the only planet found to have sustainable conditions for us to live on. We have an atmosphere to protect us from the UV rays from the sun, drinkable water, and clean oxygen to breathe. So what happens if we trash this Earth past the point of no return and it starts to die off? Do we then start to die off too? Climate change. We see it on the news channels, in political campaigns and speeches, and is related to almost all controversial politics topics. No matter what political party you are or your political beliefs, how can one ignore studies from scientists proving that our Earth is getting worse? There are almost 8 billion people on this planet. Us as Americans are programmed to believe bigger is better. You can never have too much of something. The cheaper it is, the better the deal it is. Just look at Black Friday alone. We buy a lot of stuff. So what happens to all the wrapping and the plastic that we get from this stuff? It can either go 3 ways. We can recycle it, trash it, or it ends up on the sides of highways, getting blown around, ending up in a river, getting caught in a fish's gill and killing the fish and ending the population. And then don't forget about the toxic chemicals that it emits into our water system. Here are some of the studies about our Earth and its current conditions. According to NASA, our carbon dioxide is at 409 parts per million. Our global temperature is increased 1.8 Fahrenheit since 1880. Data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment shows that Greenland has lost an average of 2.18 billion tons of ice per year from 1993 to 2006 alone. The oceans are absorbing heat with its warming degrees of 0.4 degrees per year. Then we have our sea levels rising 8 inches from the last century, but the last 2 decades alone have doubled. Just some food for thought. Let's focus more on how our government can protect us from ourselves. If you aren't familiar with how a bill becomes law, buckle up. Starting the process does actually start at our concerned citizen level. There's a small public hearing that reaches the ears of local state politicians. The bill is then created and members of the House or Senate introduce them into Congress. There is then a committee to study the bill, and there may even be a subcommittee to study it even further. The bill is then returned to the floor and voting takes place. It must be approved by both parties of Congress. The last step is to pass it to the president, and he has the power to either veto, pocket veto, or sign it in to make it public law. If he vetoes it, though, it's returned to Congress and made pass for 2/3 vote of Congress. The whole process can end very quickly, though, if he does pocket veto, because nothing can be done. As you can see in the graph above, since 1952, there has been a steady decrease from how many total bills have been introduced and how many total bills have been passed in Congress. We can see a slight incline in 2001 when 9/11 happened, making bills more processable and faster to get into law. However, it continues to fall the next few years later and even more into the past few years. So how can we voice our opinions into government? We need a unbreakable jam. Okay, stop that right